There are lots of different theories of leadership, lots of different views on leadership. One of the paradigms that's been very helpful for me is seeing leadership in three different kind of categories or ways of thinking, kind of big ways of thinking that influence all of the specific decisions we make. So there's a type of leadership that's like forest leadership. Forest leadership really values things that are alive, but feels like that there's not much we can do to impact it. So it's like a person going out in the forest and admiring what's there, praising it, hoping that maybe they'll find a mushroom or that they'll be able to catch a rabbit or something like that, but feeling like much of it's outside of their control. And actually, pastors can tend towards more forest leadership. It comes from an exalting of God and His work and a desire to have His work as the center. But then we can become more passive, like I'll just pray and wait for something to happen, and maybe underestimate how we can actually cooperate with God in His work. So that's that forest kind of leadership that's more laissez-faire, let it go, release people to do whatever is in them. From there, often people swing to another kind, which I would say is like factory leadership, where we go, we've got to organize this. We need to get some standards. We need to describe exactly what we want and specify and measure and systematize and make these processes. And factories are very efficient places. You think about how to fit all the pieces together, make sure everything that comes out is measured exactly the same, optimize your processes, train people. And much of the world today actually runs more like a factory because most of us don't work, we don't work with living things. We have these phones or trucks going different places and all that are managed. Sometimes Christian leaders go from this forest to more of this factory, and it's about pulling all the levers and pushing the buttons and systematizing everything, and then it will run. But what's interesting is you look at Jesus, I think there's a third paradigm. As you look at Jesus, when He talked about the kingdom, he told stories and He gave pictures. And He says, the kingdom of heaven is like, the kingdom of heaven is like, the kingdom of heaven is like a sower who went out to sow. The kingdom of heaven is like a shepherd. The kingdom of heaven is like the sheep and the goats. And what's interesting is Jesus was a builder. He was a carpenter or a builder. But He doesn't say the kingdom of heaven is like building a table. Or the kingdom of heaven is like, He doesn't even say the kingdom of heaven is like building a house. That's also interesting. He doesn't say the kingdom of heaven is like building a house. It says the kingdom of heaven is like a man who built a house. And all of His pictures were pictures of living things rather than dead things. And so I think there's this organic view of leadership that's very important, that I'm working with living things, but at the same time, so that's great. It's like the forest. It's not like the factory where it's mostly about pulling the right levers. I'm working with living things, but it's like a farmer or a shepherd where you have the active engagement and management of living things. But when you're working with living things, you actually manage a lot around them. I don't pull that corn stalk and make it grow. I create the optimal conditions, and God causes it to grow. I don't make that sheep have a baby. I try to create the safe environment and the right food to where that natural process happens. And when leaders begin to see themselves as farmers and shepherds, they actually approach the leadership decisions in a different way than if they view themselves as kind of forest people wandering around or as factory workers. That organic paradigm actually affects every decision you make.